spent about 2 afternoons and countless attempts trying to get this stitch pattern to work the way and look the way I want it to. It uses a stitch that decreases 3 stitches in one go, but nothing to fear because the pattern has a link on a demo video on how to do that. Hello, my name is Zanete. I am the designer behind Zanete Knits, and welcome to another one of my pattern deep dives. Today I'll be talking about the Dreamweft Sweater that I'm wearing. It is a pattern that's coming out in a couple of days, and it features an all-over mesh with rather large holes, and it's worked in lightweight yarn. So in the video I'll be talking about the inspiration, the gauge, needles and yarn used, the sizing, the construction and all the techniques used in this pattern, as well as some customizations that are possible. The inspiration comes from me seeing a crochet top with very large holes. There have been very many around this summer. It's been hard to miss, so I gave myself a challenge to see if I can figure out how to knit a similar fabric. I've seen some mesh sweaters that are knit, but to get larger holes it usually requires chunkier yarn, but I was really interested in the lightweight yarn aspect, and all in all this weighs just over 300 grams and you can squish it into a very tiny ball. So I probably spent about 2 afternoons and countless attempts trying to get this stitch pattern to work the way and look the way I wanted to, but I couldn't even contemplate giving up until it was done, and then immediately cast on this sweater. I could say it was rather spontaneous. I'm using the BC Garn BO Balance, which is merino and cotton mix in fingering weight, and I'm using just under 4 skeins for this whole sweater. The gauge for the main fabric is 18 stitches times 24 rows in a 10 by 10 centimeters or 4 by 4 inches, and I've achieved that with a rather large 4.5 millimeter, that is US size 7 needle. So it felt quite interesting to work with a huge needle and a lightweight yarn, but that's what creates these holes. And then for ribbing, I go down to a 2.75 millimeter, that's US size 2 needle, and the gauge is 24 times 34 in the 10 by 10 4 by 4 square. There is another needle that can be used to transition for this rather large neck circumference and to transition to the smaller gauge. So I used a 3.25, that's US size 3, just around the neckline. For the cuffs and hem, I went straight to 2.75. It's recommended to add 30 to 40 centimeters, that is 12 to 16 inches of positive ease, and there's a good reason for that. Not only it's comfortable and cool and looks trendy, but also the stitch pattern has a tendency to pull and twist in one direction. So the sweater, because it's worked top down in the round, and so are the sleeves, is sort of continuously twisting. You can counteract that by blocking it quite forcefully, and I've also added rather large breaks in the pattern here on the sides, and the same for the sleeves, which helps with the blocking but also adds that structure. But yes, when you're swatching and when you're working on it before blocking, it will feel really strange because the pull is very noticeable, and there's nothing you're doing wrong. It's not the yarn, it is the stitch pattern that you can fix. And the reason for the positive ease is that it looks rather strange, in my opinion, if you make a quite fitted version, and then the effect of it twisting is a lot more noticeable. Even if there's just a slight twist, when it's all free-flowing you can't really tell, but if it's on the body then it looks crooked and not pleasant to look at. It comes in 9 sizes, and because of the recommended ease being quite large, the smallest chest circumference is 106.5 centimeters. That is 42 inches. And for the largest size, we've got 186.5 centimeter, which is 75 inches, I believe. So the construction and techniques. We start with the back, just casting on the neckline stitches there, and then we use lifted increases to increase along the shoulders to the full width of the back. And then we work straight to where we need to do some armhole shaping by additional increases. And then once we get to the underarm, we place stitches on hold to work the fronts. Initially, we pick up stitches along the shoulder seam and work each shoulder separately with some shaping here for the neckline until we join the fronts together and work and mimic the same armhole shaping that we did for the back. And then we join in the round, cast on the underarm stitches here, and add the breaks in the pattern all the way to hem, and you can make it as short or long as you wish. Then we pick up stitches along the armholes to work the sleeve. We pick up a stitch for every row, and then we do a decrease round to adjust the stitch count to make sure our circumference isn't huge. And we have some increases on the sleeve to make the wrist a little less wide, but it's still quite wide to go with the positive ease. One thing to note is the stitch pattern is a repeat of 4 by 4, and due to the nature of the big holes, there are some rows that reduce the stitch count by half. So you have to be very careful to read the pattern instructions on where you place the sleeve increases, because each increase will eliminate a whole pattern repeat on both sides. Again, the sleeves can be as long or short as you desire. One more thing about the stitch pattern is that it uses double yarnovers, and it uses a stitch that decreases 3 stitches in one go. But nothing to fear, because the pattern has a link on a demo video on how to do that. And finally, we pick up stitches around the neckline. As I mentioned before, you could start with the 3.25 millimeter needle to transition into the smaller gauge more seamlessly. The type of ribbing you add or the width of the neckband is entirely up to you. That's one of the customizations, just as the length of the sweater. And that's all there is to it. I hope this was helpful, and if you're a newsletter subscriber, you should watch out for your email on Wednesday the 10th of July with your exclusive discount code. If not, then there's still hopefully some time to subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.